This meeting is being recorded.
Oh, did you do that too, Chase?
I did not hit
Oh,
the recording
okay.
to start, so but it is. I think everybody's in here, so let Bruce get this pulled up.
All right, there we go. I think we're good. I think we're recording, Chase. Okay, so we can get started. All right, right now I
Alrighty.
can't see anyone on the screen, so if anyone has any questions, you can feel free to just um,
Oh, see better now.
interrupt or wait till the end. Sorry, I'm just trying to see if I can get anyone's pictures up here.
That's right, Bruce. I can see everybody, so I can
All right, yeah.
I
So I'm
can
just
monitor the questions if any
all right.
come through.
All right, cool. I'm just
Um,
flying blind here, so I can't really see who's on here. So sorry about that. All right,
no
folks, we're
worries.
we're ready to get started here. So thanks for that while we got our technical difficulties out of the way. So welcome. Tonight we're going to be talking about the alpine skiing and snowboarding season that is coming up for the winter. My name is Bruce Bach. I'm the Senior Competition Director for Special Olympics Pennsylvania, and I'll let Chase introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Chase Proudfoot. I'm one of our regional sport directors out of the Three Rivers region. A lot of new faces on here. I don't recognize a lot of you, but I have a background in snowboarding and skiing a little bit. Um, Winter Games is my favorite, so I'm looking forward to this season. If you haven't sat through a meeting with me, I'm pretty quick, so just let me know if I need to slow down on anything at all. But we'll go through the agenda. So we'll talk about some skiing, snowboarding updates, go over some preseason reminders, talk a little bit about the 2025 competitions, winter games and indoor winter games for some of you that go through multiple sports, and then we'll open it up for some questions there at the end. So the really exciting news for this group is between the 2022 updates to 2024, there are none. Rulebook stayed the same. Snowboarding, there was some language changes, but as far as that's concerned, no additional changes to any rules. And the coach's guide is the same as well. Our website looks a little bit different, as you can see from the pictures that Bruce has inserted there below. Of course, our sign-up deadline was last Friday, unless your RSDs have said otherwise for some late signups. That winter sign-up window is closed. If you want to go ahead and advance, Bruce, just like always, access to our resource guides. Once we share this webinar afterwards, these are clickable links. So it'll take you right to SOPA resources along with some SOI resources that are linked in there as well. Like I said, we have had no rule changes for Alpine for 2024. The next slide is just going to go ahead and reiterate that exact same thing. No new rules, pictures look the same, just as 2024 down in the corners now. Coach's guide is still listed as 2021. That is still the most current coach's guide. If you haven't gone through them before, just gives you some examples of exercise for novice, intermediate, expert level skiing, some stretches, warm up, cool down. It is a great resource for some of those newer coaches. I'm sure you all have a lot of experience. If you haven't coached before, I would definitely recommend going through it. All right, Bruce, we'll go ahead. Attire, always the biggest question. Most important thing to remember is, we can always take layers off. It is much harder to add layers. So everything that's required, helmet for sure, we are FIS standard for competition. If you don't know if your helmet is FIS certified, generally has a sticker on there. You should be able to look up the make and model of a helmet, find an answer there as well. We are looking for the hard covered earpieces, not the soft covered earpieces. That's consistent with Alpine and snowboarding, is that the helmet has to conform to FIS standards. Socks, goggles, insulated neck gaiters, waterproof gloves, uh, your regular ski boots, make sure they're comfortable, make sure they're the right size. A a bad day in boots is just a bad day. And then we should be wearing warm clothes, 3 layers, definitely preferred. So like I said, we can always take them off, but it's definitely difficult to add, especially once we get cold. Uniform guidelines per SOPA standards. If you're interested, you can. Another clickable link. It'll take you through all of the sports. Last year we had the great donation from Columbia. I'm sure our athletes will still look great in those if we want to wear them out there. As we go through to the next slide, it'll show you a jacket that has your team logo, the SOPA logo on it. Not a requirement right now. We just ask that the athletes are dressed appropriately, especially because jackets are relatively expensive and we're not going to make everybody go get a nice embroidered one. And then just looking again at the helmet requirement, again, the biggest thing there is that if your athlete is looking to compete, the helmet they're wearing has to conform to the FIS standards. Unless they're using slalom, then it's not as big of a deal. But definitely looking for those hardcover earpieces. And then as we talk about the regular accessories, a lot of people might not realize it, that snow gives off quite the reflection. It certainly makes it easy to burn. So we should definitely be looking at having sunscreen available, especially on those nice bluebird days. Definitely recommend wearing a ski mask, something to cover the chin, nose, cheeks, protect from the wind burn as everybody's advancing down the hill. And then if we don't have a waterproof jacket, something that is waterproof is great, whether that's gloves, a rain jacket on a warmer day. But we should definitely limit how wet the athletes get falling or rolling around in the snow. So that's the quick overview. And I'm going to turn it over to Bruce here to go through some of the preseason reminders.
Chase, if we could, does anyone have any questions as it relates to Alpine or snowboarding from what Chase covered? Just for the next couple slides, I'll talk about some preseason reminders, and then I'll talk about the 2025 Indoor Winter Games and Winter Games a little bit later. So just curious right now if anyone has their hand up, anyone has additional questions. Is there anything else Christy would like to add at this point?
Yeah, Christy does have a comment.
Yeah, that'd be great if you could. I just can't see your hand up or anything, so.
No jeans. Please remind your folks, no jeans. And the helmet requirement is there. And we can talk about helmets now or later in the call.
Yeah, I would talk about them right now if you can.
Okay, did you get the letter this year from the helmet vendor?
I did not. I'm still waiting to get it from Michelle, but I'll reach out to whoever our contact is at SOI to see if I can get that information.
Okay, again, it takes time to get the helmets. The vendor gives us a good deal. Mary, I know that you have your own stash, based on what you said last year. But I ended up having to front the money last year for like about 5 different counties. I would rather not do that this year if I can help it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's make sure we don't do that again. I can always do it in my card or whatever
Thank you.
means necessary to leave you out of that.
Yeah, thanks. Mary, you want to say something? I think you're waving. And you're on mute.
No worries, Mary. We're good.
I am so technically forgacted today.
No worries.
If you need help fronting money, I have a card that I use just for that, and it's not a problem. Helmets and the athlete safety is more important than anything. But I have maybe a couple extra helmets that I could send around if necessary. Just a quick question: who's the vendor that you guys are using?
I'll send that information to you, Mary. I have to dig it out from last year.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
They averaged about 150 each.
That's good. I had to buy one for one athlete because he has a big head. And there's only literally there was only one manufacturer that made a helmet that large, and I fronted it, and I don't have a problem with that. It's like I consider it a donation, but it was not 150. So I'm glad you got that price. That's a good price for a good helmet. FIS, excellent.
Yep.
It's
And
the,
that's the other thing too. That's the other thing too, for training. You know, if the rule in Special Olympics is if they're in any kind of a gate, they have to have the FIS helmet.
absolutely.
Right. If they're on a hill, they have to have a helmet. Okay, but as soon as there's one gate involved, you need the FIS. So
Mhm.
Mary, I'll send you the vendor we used last year. And if
Okay.
you can send me back, I have an athlete that if he shows up this year, I may need that extra large helmet vendor as well. So
Got it.
yeah, so we can pass that back and forth.
So the vendor that we currently have only has up to a certain size. Is that what you're?
Well, the vendor's
Is that
large
the-
is not real large. I mean, it's large. Helmets are supposed to fit snugly. Okay.
Yeah, and I, for some reason, I mean, I measured this kid's head, and it seemed like the largest size I think that I had just wasn't big enough. So I think I went up a size, and then nobody had it. So I ended up getting it from, I think it was a Smith. I'm not sure. I'll let you know. I have all the paperwork inside.
Yeah,
Okay,
that would help
yeah.
too, right? In case any of the other programs are in the same situation
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, again, it ended up being, I got it stashed because I'm gonna have to, I mean, Allegheny's gonna need helmets this year again. Based
Okay.
on the signups, we have a lot of new folks and a lot of folks that have come back. But
The other thing that people need to remember is that there is a life cycle for these helmets.
mhm,
The first thing being that if an athlete falls and they hit their head on the snow, really need to check that helmet. But generally speaking, when I was racing, if I fell and hit my head, that was it for that helmet, whether it was brand new or not as brand new. But that was $300, $400 out the window, and I get a new helmet. Plastic has a shelf life. It becomes brittle. So I think that after 3 or 4 years, maybe 4 years of being out in the cold and coming inside and being in the cold, that there's going to be some kind of fatigue in those helmets, and we're going to have to re-up.
yeah,
So that's the sad thing about helmets. They don't last for 10 years. They should not.
All right, Christy, and Mary, we'll get
Yeah.
on that, and then we'll send an email, I guess, what's all the head coaches. That's generally how you did in the past.
right,
Yeah.
right. And again, you know, if you need like a one-off or something, I'm more than happy to coordinate that because they ended up doing it last year too. But
Okay.
just the initial orders were several $1,000s, and you know, if you
Yeah,
guys can help out, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll do.
Christmas
Certainly
is
don't put
coming,
that
you
on
know?
yours.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks. All right. Anything else as far as snowboarding Alpine go before I get into some season reminders? And then we'll talk about the trackers, and then we'll talk about winter games and winter games.
One more thing.
Fire away.
Okay. Michelle had dug out some dry land. And she sent it over. I didn't get a chance to look at it. Mary, I know you're an ex-racer, so I'll probably send it your way as well. But especially this year, at least on my side of the state, we're in a drought. You can't make snow without water. I was up on the mountain yesterday and we need water. So, and actually for those, again, in the West, Hidden Valley's in much better shape than Seven Springs is as far as water. So that's kind of good for where we train. But
Yeah.
just be aware of that. So maybe, you know, think about dry land this year if we get really late starts.
The other thing, I don't know if anybody was following the news. I unfortunately was out of town, and I started getting text bombs. Blue Mountain supposedly had a lot of forest fires going on it, and a lot of stuff burned down, because of the lack of water, because it's so dry here as well. So I have no idea what kind of season we're looking at. We're supposed to get a couple of storms in the next couple of weeks and get some rain, but I don't know if it's going to be enough I doubt it's going to be even enough to start anything before January.
Mm.
So we're going to be sorely squashed with our training.
All right. So if that's something, just if that's a document that we can share with the coaches as well, that would help out too. So maybe we'll just look for
Yeah.
two things in the coach's email follow up would be the helmets and then dry land training document that you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm gonna review it. And then we're also for World Games, we're doing dry land as well.
Cool.
So I'd like to kind of combine, get the best of both.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right, folks, I'm going to move on to my sections there. And like I said, we'll talk about some of the trackers coming up. All right, some preseason reminders. Um, obviously the November 15th date has passed for the signers for the athletes and the volunteers for this winter. If you do have athletes that are still signing up or still interested in signing up for this winter, please reach out to your regional sport director. The official season for the winter season will start on December 1, which is going to be here awfully quick. One important date that you'll see on this slide and a couple different slides coming up is the season eligibility, which is going to be December 20th. So looking at that winter season going down there, you can see the training site registration. Athlete Unified was at November. Athlete Unified Partner sign up was at November 15th. Season length, just talked about December 1st to March 2nd. March 2nd corresponds to the last day of indoor winter games, which is the culminating event for the winter season. And then December 20th, the eligibility deadline for the athletes and volunteers. Sports season preparation. We do have the winter calendar that is on the current website. Again, this is a clickable site, so you'll be able to click on here and it'll go to the competition winter dates. Like I just mentioned, you'll find this on the SOPA website. Right now, it's located under competitions, and then when you click on competitions, right at the top, the winter calendar will be located there. And again, just mentioned on the previous slide is that eligibility deadline of December 20th. Air quality has come up in the past couple years. So if we are at a unhealthy air quality, which would be an unhealthy zone of 51 or above, we ask that there's no outdoor activities and that any outdoor activities, social event, or whether it's training or competition, that we move those events indoors because it is in that unhealthy zone of 151. The next two bullet points there are two resources that you can look at to see what your current air quality is for your training site. You can go to the airnow.gov. Really, it's quite simple to use. You put in your zip code and you can see what your air quality is like. Mary just mentioned some of the fires that have been going through Blue Mountain, I think it was. So it could be, an issue that we need to keep an eye out for this upcoming winter season. Athlete and volunteer eligibility. Athletes, it's required that any athlete, in order to train, must have their medical on file with a signature that also includes the expiration dates. Those athlete medicals are valid for 3 years. For right now, all the athlete medicals still using Visa, so you will attach those medicals on their Visa's portal under attachments. So for the Class A volunteers, they are required to have the Class A trainings, which are listed below, plus their background check on file. For the background checks, those are valid for 5 years. The general orientation that Class A volunteers take is valid for life. And then the two protective behaviors and concussion training, those are both valid for 3 years. You can find where you personally are with your volunteer requirements on the portal. The coaches, you will see this on your trackers, which we'll show you in a little bit. So you'll be able to see any athletes that have expired medicals, any athletes that are going to have expired medicals before an event, as well as the volunteers, what requirements that they may be currently missing, or which ones may be coming out ending soon. Sorry about that. Sorry, I was just trying to admit someone. Volunteer eligibility, as far as volunteers who cannot supervise athletes and volunteers, the two categories are unified partner and general volunteers. So if volunteers fall into one of those two categories, they cannot supervise athletes or volunteers. So unified partners are volunteer who trains and competes alongside of an athlete. They are required to have a volunteer application, a background clearance, protective behaviors, general orientation training, as well as a health history form. General volunteers, those individuals are volunteers who assist only occasionally at a local training site and have limited contact with athletes. They are under the supervision of coaches, so they do not directly supervise athletes or volunteers. They may be individuals who are only able to attend a few practices or who want to better understand SOPA before becoming more involved. Those individuals, if they are a general volunteer, they are required to have completed a volunteer application. And the head coaches are the ones who are expected to enforce these classifications. Again, if you have any issues or you have any questions, you can reach out to your regional sport director.
Hey, Jasmine.
So volunteers who can supervise athletes and volunteers. So there's three categories of those athletes.
Yours, Zach.
You're able to hit someone. I think we're okay now. Whoops. Looks like I'm getting some feedback here. Volunteers who can supervise athletes and volunteers, right? Three categories of those. We have head coaches, assistant coaches, as well as the chaperones and training site volunteer. So obviously, head coaches are the volunteer who creates, organizes, and leads a comprehensive sports training program for the team. Head coaches are required to complete a volunteer application. Again, the background check, protective behaviors, general orientation, as well as concussion training and sports certification. Assistant coaches are volunteers who help organize practice, trainings, and assist athletes in acquiring sports skills. Assistant coaches are required to complete a volunteer application, have a background check, protective behaviors training, general orientation, as well as concussion training. Those individuals who are chaperones or training site volunteers are volunteers who supports a training site, and they fall within the 1-to-4 ratio. Chaperones do not help with sports training, but they may support the team through supervision and administrative support. Chaperones are able to supervise athletes and travel with the team to competitions. Anyone in the capacity of the chaperone or training site volunteer that falls within the 1-to-4 ratio would be required to have a volunteer application on file, background check, as well as protective behaviors training, general orientation, and lastly, concussion training. Again, head coaches would be responsible for making sure that the volunteers in this category are up to date on all of their clearances. And again, we'll show you this on the trackers when we pull them up. Athlete as a coach, just want to put a plug out for any athletes that are interested in acting as a coach for the winter season. There is an athlete as a coach webinar, which we have linked in here. It gives you more information about athletes as a coach, what the expectations are and what is needed to become an athlete as a coach. If you have any athletes that are interested in becoming a coach, the request form is listed there. That link will take you directly to the form that you'll fill out. It'll get sent to Jordan Schubert, and he'll follow up with either the head coach, the athlete, or the program manager, or the sports team leader. If you do have any questions about athletes as coaches, you can simply reach out to Jordan Schubert with his email address listed there with any questions that you may have. Coaching requirements for the winter season for this call. We are the sorry about that, individual sports and team individual sports. So you would need at least one certified coach per 25 athletes. This calls out for team sports, but just as an FYI, for team sports like floor hockey, floorball, those teams would have to have at least one certified coach per team. So those of you on Alpine and snowboarding, which this call is for, you would need to have one certified coach per 25 athletes. So if you have 26 athletes on your roster, you would need 2 certified coaches, right? Because it's above 25 athletes. In-season communication, we're trying to do a better job of communicating with coaches throughout the season. So we will be rolling out a new communication plan that'll be starting with the spring sports season. But there are a couple ways that this new plan will affect winter sports. Similarly to what we did with Fall Festival, all participants who qualify for either Winter Games or Indoor Winter Games will receive a Welcome to Winter Games or a Welcome to Indoor Winter Games email that will highlight some of the important updates and features for both Winter Games and Indoor Winter Games. So be on the lookout for that when the time comes. We are doing a text messaging service, which we started last year at Summer Games. We did some of it at Fall Festival, and we'll continue with that communication throughout the winter. So our text messaging notifications, we will be doing them at all statewide competitions, events, to promote sports signups, which we already started. If you do receive a text message from that phone number there, that 1-267-341-0663, please do not delete that or unsubscribe to that because that is our text messaging service that we are utilizing. Head coach communication, just as a reminder for those head coaches on this call, we want to make sure that you're communicating anything with all of your assistant coaches prior to going into the season and throughout the season as well, especially with those new assistant coaches, so they are kept informed throughout the season. Also, please be sure that you're utilizing the most up-to-date contact information for your athletes and their guardians. So that information can be found on the tracker. Qualifiers, this doesn't affect anyone in this group, but if you are a bowling coach as well, bowling is the only winter sport that is a qualifier, and bowling is a qualifier for indoor winter games. Just as an FYI, the qualifying events for indoor winter games for bowling specifically will be the regional bowling tournaments, which are coming up either late December or January. So those are the only qualifying events. So the athletes do not need to qualify at a sectional or an invitational. Well, there is no sectional event in the winter, but an invitational. Again, there's no qualifying sports for the winter outside of bowling. This, hopefully, coaches, that you are aware of our new portal. So volunteers can log into our new online portal that replaces the old visa system. So everything that you need to know about yourself and the certifications and background checks and all that stuff, when things run out, you will find that within your individual portal. Any volunteer who is not logged into the new portal and needs support with claiming their profile, you can reach out to portal support at specialolympicspa.org. For any new volunteers, so when a new volunteer registers in the portal, they will need to click on the Do More with Special Olympics to sign up for the role of their choice. So once they register as a new volunteer, they will need to go back on and select whether they're a coach, they're a chaperone, unified partner, one of those categories within the new portal. Also within the portal is where you can see the training schools. This is where you will sign up for an event, specifically training schools. You can see, for examples, listed below. Coming up, snowshoeing virtual training. There's one on November 19th. You can see snowshoe virtual training on November 23rd. Bowling, two bowling ones there on the 21st and the 23rd. So we will be offering virtual training schools in snowshoe, bowling. In-person training schools will occur in alpine skiing, snowboarding, floorball, figure skating, and speed skating. If you have a need for an in-person training school, you may simply reach out to your regional sport director to schedule that training. I'm going to turn it over to Chase now so you can talk us through the trackers.
Sure, Bruce. Before we go too far, Heather was asking about how the subscription to the texting works. Could you just elaborate a little bit more on how they get signed up for that?
Yeah, well, I'm not exactly quite sure. Have you received anything yet? Maybe if you drop your name into the chat with your cell phone, I can make sure it gets attached to that. But essentially what we do is we go into the portal and we pull all the coaches out of the portal that have cell phones, and then we'll send it that way. So it's not necessarily a subscription where we send it out and say, hey, do you want to join this? It's more of a, we have your cell phone, we send you a text message. Does that kind of make sense, Chase?
Yeah, she was just asking if there was something that she had to do,
Yeah, no, there's
make
nothing
sure
on
she wasn't missing anything.
yeah, there's nothing on the coach's side. Um, the only
Hmm.
thing I would say is if you are in the portal and you do not have your cell phone listed in there, if you could please make sure that we have the correct cell phone. Additionally, when we send out that welcome email, one of the emails that go out, and you're not part of that, you would simply just reach out to your regional sport director and let them know that you did not receive that text message. I'm not quite sure when the text messaging will start for winter sports, but again, just make sure that you have your cell phone up to date in the portal.
Thanks, Bruce.
Yep, and I think there was another one maybe. Oh, okay, she just dropped it in there. Okay, okay, good. All right, cool. Thanks, Chase.
Okay, really exciting. The trackers, love them or hate them, but they are here. Um, So hopefully they're a little bit more user friendly. They should look a little bit nicer than we've made them look in the past. So right when you open it up, you should be greeted to that instructions tab. So it'll have your training site name at the top. Bruce don't advance yet, but on the next slide we're going to see it. So we'll see exactly what that looks like. For our ease as your regional sport directors, it is really helpful if you're able to put in that head coach's name, phone number, email, just so if there are any issues, we know exactly who to contact and we're not going to maybe like a program lead first and then jumping through different hoops. Personal preference from an RSD right there is that's what I like. Some of our coaches do it, some of them don't. Second tab is going to be your athlete and volunteer list, also where you're going to be able to take your attendance and be able to see their eligibility, as well as complete your LOI. I know for the fall, if any of you are fall coaches, we did a LOI separately. Your letter of intent was shared via Google form, the way we had done it in the past. Since we have so few training sites for the winter, we're just going to go ahead and operate off of the attendance trackers for your LOI this year. So please just mark each athlete that's interested in attending winter games or indoor winter games on your attendance tracker, and your regional sport director will pull all of the interest, and we'll know who to communicate the information to. Your third tab is going to be your event registration. So this is where you'll be able to select the events, put in your times for your athletes, as well as mark who's going to attend a local, regional, state competition, or which of your coaches are going to attend those competitions as well. We are not a team sport, so you don't have to worry about the rating forms. But for those of you who are other coaches, that fourth tab is going to be your team rating form, where you can compile your athletes that make up your team and then rank them on your scale of 1 to 5 to determine what type of skill level they have. And then our new piece of information we have there is the athlete performance training. So there's some additional information on the instruction tab that walks you through it. Essentially, and we'll talk about it a little bit more at the end, and have a short video for you, is we are trying to get some metrics that prove that the sport and activity that we're offering is in fact benefiting our athletes. So it's just a couple things that take a couple minutes before or after practice. You don't have to do it every time. Just some measurements about our athletes, and we'll walk through a little bit more towards the end of our tracker section here.
Yeah. Yeah. Jesus.
All right, so tab 1, right, our instruction tab, you can see they're listed at the top. We have, if this is an active training site, if you're traditional or unified, your team name. Yes, Karen, we are using the same books. Training site name, what sport you do, and then your training site leads there. Based on the number of coaches and athletes you have signed up, you can see if you fit into that 4-to-1 ratio. which we ask that you do. Um, And then if you have any questions about what information is pulled from your tracker, right there under the tracker complete instructions, you'll be able to see all of that. Bruce, if you want to go ahead and advance, we'll look at our second tab, which has all of your athletes and eligibility and volunteers listed. So in that column there, you can see everybody who is eligible or ineligible, color-coded for your ease. Should make it a little bit easier to see. And depending on which region you're in, your RSD might be willing to go ahead and sort your athletes separate from your volunteers, put them into alphabetical order. I bet if you threw a please in there, they would do it for you, no problem. I know I would at least. And then we can go ahead to our third tab, which is our event registration. And this is where you'll be able to select, oh, just kidding. We'll go into eligibility next. So of course, when we're looking at eligibility, and I know Bruce has talked about it already, we should be looking specifically for this group. If you're looking to attend Winter Games, all of your athletes or volunteers should be Class A to be able to travel. So they would have to have all of those qualifications completed. Highlighted in green are going to be your athletes or volunteers who are completely eligible, nothing that has to change. Your regional administrative manager should put into those required fields what information is missing so that they can become eligible. And that all needs to be done by December the 20th. All right, now we'll go into the LOI. So just like I said at the beginning, we'll mark these in the column, preferably with an X. All of your athletes or volunteers who are interested in attending the state competition. I don't know if all of our regions are able to offer a local competition based on lack of snow generally early in the season. You also have to apologize for me moving around because my computer's not going to make it through the rest of the meeting if I don't plug it in. So we will not send out the LOI unless something changes. We will just check through here. And we have some dates on all of that towards the end of this.
Jesus.
All right. So the trained for 8 weeks, we understand it might be difficult. Most of us are probably going to be in the know here. For a lot of our other sports, you absolutely have to be training for 8 weeks to be able to attend competition. We understand with Alpine and snowboarding that, if it's not snowing and you can't be on the hill, it's difficult. So just to kind of circle through to what Christy was talking about earlier with the dry land, if you guys are out there doing dry land training, it absolutely counts as a week of training.
Okay.
Right. So if we can get to 8 weeks, maybe 4 is dry and 4 is on snow, I mean, that's our 8 weeks. So yeah, I would definitely push dry land if it's possible. All right, here we go. Sport registration, which I've said 4 times before we got there. So in those 3 columns, G, H, and I, you'll be able to select if they're attending, that'll be what their role is going to be. So if you have dry land can Zoom, sure, I'll accept Zoom for dry land as long as our athletes are clearly participating. I think there's no problem in doing that. So on these, you'll be able to select assistant coach, head coach. Our sign-up form changed a little bit in our language. So when your volunteers were signing up, we just had the general coach term instead of asking them to sign up as a head coach or an assistant coach. So on our end, they'll all look the same. This is where we will ask that you give them that title of a head coach or an assistant coach as you sign them up for the event. And then Heather, I believe, based on this reporting, is where we'll pull the phone number for those head coaches for our text communication. So I don't believe we pull all of the assistant coaches I think we just take the head coaches, and then it's up to you to be able to deliver that information to the rest of your team that attends. So you'll mark your athletes as athletes, and then to the right in column K and over, you'll be able to select which event they'll be participating in, and then their qualifying times there as well. On your alpine skiing or snowboarding trackers, when you click on that drop-down arrow, you'll be able to see all of the events that we offer. And they're dignified by if they're level 1, 2, or 3. So that'll be their beginner, intermediate, novice, or advanced. And then, of course, we can see there all of the roles. So since we did get rid of our Google rosters for our state competitions, outside of our housing sheet, this is how we're going to take all of our rosters. So as you build your roster for the state games, it is crucial that all of these participants who will be attending are labeled and labeled correctly. So we're able to pull a proper delegation report that we'll share with you guys to make sure it's approved before state games. If somebody is marked as attending a local competition, whether you offer it or not, but they are not marked as attending the state competition, at least I would assume that that person is not coming to Winter Games. So please make sure that all of the athletes who are interested in attending are marked as they will be attending. Even if they're marked under the LOI as attending, if they are not marked under your event roster as attending, I will assume they were interested, but were no longer able to make it. So please make sure if one of them is going to be correct, it's going to be our event roster here. And then you can see, so those are at least some of the events that we have there. It does get cut off. There's a little bit more of a scroll that we can select. And those athletes are able to compete in up to 3 events. If they're going to compete in 3 events, they all have to be at the same level. So they can do the Super G, the Slalom, and GS, all at intermediate, but they can't do intermediate Slalom, advanced Super. So they have to be all within the same skill category throughout the entire duration of the event. Christy, I'll get to that in a second. I just can't read the entire message. So the APT instructions on that first page, right when you open up your tracker, if you just scroll down a little bit more to the bottom, this is a section that you're going to see afterwards. We certainly encourage that all of our coaches are able to do it. Of course, we know that there might be some time constraints. So if you're not able to do it, that is okay. But we do think that this provides a lot of great feedback so we can continue to tailor some of our state events towards some of these metrics that we're gathering at the end of each season. And a lot of our athletes like to be able to track their progress. So they can see, you know, maybe somebody dropped 5 pounds while competing in their basketball season. So there's certainly a lot right there. I'll let you guys read through that on your own. And we do have a great video here and just a couple of slides. Chrissy, I'll have to look into that a little bit more. If I had 4 to 6 hours, could cover the training gap. I think it depends on the quality of training, of course. I've been to your training site. I know that you typically do a great job. It is relatively difficult to be able to offer and see a lot of improvement in 4 to 6 hours, which is typically why we look at the 8 weeks, that we can see the retaining of information as we proceed week to week. I don't think I've ever looked at your tracker and been a little stingy on how often you've practiced. But we certainly encourage that we get through 8 weeks, whether that is all on snow or not. But we certainly understand the difficulty of being able to get on snow for 8 weekends, especially when I think for Seven Springs, our first weekend is going to be the week after Christmas. So the last stat on your attendance tracker is going to look like this. This is your athlete performance training data that you can collect. So your athlete names will populate, gender, age. It does not have their height, their weight, their blood pressure, and that would be things that you're able to calculate if you're comfortable doing so. But it's not something that we gather at the beginning of the season and are able to provide. So Bruce, if you want to go ahead forward, then we'll go through this video that was put together.
Thank you for your interest in athlete performance
Paige,
training.
can you hear it?
To learn more about Special Olympics
Yeah,
Pennsylvania's athlete performance training program, head to our website under Beyond Sports and click on Fitness Programs. There you will scroll down and learn more about athlete performance training on the left by clicking on Learn More. Athlete performance training is Special Olympics Pennsylvania's in-season fitness program. Health education and fitness are embedded into the sports practices. Coaches provide health education each week, and athletes are encouraged to participate in at-home fitness, which is provided as a program in the athlete performance training materials. Athletes are encouraged to exercise at home and change health habits based on the health education. Athlete performance training can happen anywhere on the playing field, a soccer field, a bowling alley, or even a swimming pool. To register your team for athlete performance training, you will scroll down on the website under If You're a Coach, watch the training video first, and then complete the registration form. Once the registration form is completed, materials will be mailed to you, and you can use the APT tracker provided in your team's roster.
When you visit your team's roster and go to the Instructions tab, if you scroll down, you'll see instructions for entering your athlete performance training fitness evaluation results. These instructions will lead you to the tab labeled APT Tracker, which is going to be present in all rosters starting in winter 2025. On the left, you can enter data for the preseason fitness evaluation, and on the right, you can enter your results for your postseason fitness evaluation. And if you keep scrolling to the right, you'll see some auto-filled results that show the impact for each individual athlete that this program has had. Thank you again for your commitment to your athletes. We've seen really promising results in the early stages of athlete performance training. You can see that 95% of athletes who participate in APT either maintained or improved their distance recorded in the 6-minute run walk test, and 92% improved their blood pressure or maintained their blood pressure, and 89% improved or maintained their BMI after participating in APT. So the impact is measurable for the health of our athletes, and your commitment is what makes a difference for your athletes.
All right, folks, I know we're getting close to 8 o'clock, so bear with me. We're almost at the end here. Okay, I'm still not. So local invitational regional competitions. We'd like your help developing a comprehensive SOPA competition calendar. Looking down below, it says SOPA competition calendar submission form. Simply, you can click on that. Any invitationals or local tournaments that you're having, you can drop that in there. We're doing the same thing for any regional competitions that are coming up throughout the state. So, let us know, if you are having a local or invitational tournament. And again, if you need any support with any of those, please reach out to your regional sport directors. I mean, I know that they're going to be involved with any competition that you may have. But again, if there's any help or assistance or anything that you need, please reach out to the regional sport director. You can certainly reach out to myself as well. Winter events, two main culminating events that we have here in the winter season is winter indoor games. Winter games will be held at Seven Springs, February 11th through the 13th. Again, that's where snowboarding and Alpine will be held. And then indoor winter games, as an FYI, will be March 1st through the 2nd, 2025, again in York. So for this group here, again, knowing that winter games is February 11th to the 13th, the registration information will be shared with the regional sport directors on December 13th. They will share that with the sport team leaders for each of the programs for winter games. And then as Chase just talked us through the trackers, you can see the LOIs that are due on there. On those trackers, housing information, all that stuff will be shared out on January 23rd. And I know this is down the line, but scratch and activations will be due February 4th. For indoor winter games, for coaches that attend indoor winter games as well, it'll be March 1st through 2nd, 2025, in York, PA again. Registration information for indoor winter games will be shared out on January 3rd, and then you can see the additional dates and deadlines located listed below. Preseason webinars, we've already had a couple. Tomorrow night, if you are a bowling coach, we have the bowling webinar tomorrow night. And then on this Wednesday, we have figure skating and speed skating. So I'm going to stop sharing now. Just want to say thank you all for sticking around. I guess right now, Chase, we can open up to any questions that you may have. I'm guessing, I think we're okay there. I think you already did everything related to the chat.
Yeah.
All right, so we already talked
all those as
there.
they came through.
APT was good. Christy Reed with the 8 weeks, so I think we're good there. All right, folks, any additional questions that you may have related to Alpine snowboard? Anything related to the trackers, upcoming events?
I have a quick question, if I may.
Sure, fire away.
On the new portal, well, on any portal, you talked about certifications. As the coach, should I be able to see somewhere who is certified and when those certifications are ending?
Yeah, so you'll be able to see that on your trackers. So all that'll be listed on your trackers, on your team
Okay.
trackers. You won't be able
I
to see.
looked and none of my coaches are listed as certified. So does that mean none of us are?
So your coach certifications aren't listed on your tracker, but if you contact your regional sport director, they'll be able to see
That's
through
what I'm
our
asking.
back end
I
which
have to
of those
go,
coaches are
I can't see
certified.
that in the portal on my own or anything. I have to go through
You would
some.
be able to see your own results, but not anybody else's.
All right. That's
So
what I
Jason, where are
was.
you? What program are you listed on that's not listed on your tracker?
I'm
Should that be
sorry, you're
listed?
asking me or Chase?
Jason, yeah, you.
Yeah. Well, I'm asking about my coaches being certified for the sport.
On our
Oh,
sign-up form, Bruce,
certification.
we did not have a field that indicated whether or not a coach was certified in their sport or not, because there was
gotcha.
no good place to fit that question in.
Right,
Yeah.
I got you. I thought you were talking about the specific.
No, athletes I
Uh,
got. Tracker as it is, I get it. It makes sense. I like it. That was a data element I didn't find anywhere yet.
Gotcha. Yep. Okay. Thanks. All right. Anything else?
Looks like Patty has a question, but she's muted.
Okay, now you hear
There you
me?
go. Yep, you're good.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Yep.
You can hear me, but I can't hear you. That's why.
Yep. Go ahead.
I don't know. I can't hear you.
Go ahead, Patty. You can talk.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I have a concern. I've never received information on how to see the tracker.
Are you a head coach?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And which region are you located in?
Three Rivers.
Okay. Which training site?
Hidden Valley.
With Beaver?
I'm sorry, what?
With Beaver or with Christie or Westmoreland?
With Christy.
Okay, so I have sent the link to Christy. So Christy has that training site tracker link already.
I'll send it over
Um,
to you. Do you, okay, for just a question for Allegheny Butler trains together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want a common tracker or do you want Butler to have their own and Allegheny to have their own? What do you want?
I can combine you guys if you'd like. It doesn't really matter as long as all of the athletes get tracked.
Okay.
So are you from Butler, Patty? Are you
Yes.
the Butler coach that works with Christy? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if we had Butler listed as a training site option.
I think you did.
So if we did, then I probably sent it to Mary. And then
Cool.
she should have shared it with you. But I will go ahead and just combine Butler and Allegheny. So I'll change all of those responses.
Okay.
And then I'll share that link with you as well.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. That solves that issue. All right, folks. Anything else? Any other questions?
Quick question. I don't recall getting my roster yet. If someone could check on that, that would be great. I didn't get the link yet.
Are you
Okay.
from-
Jason may have sent it before he left for paternity leave. I'm not sure if he did. I
right,
have
I'll check when he
access to
does.
all of Jason's trackers. So if he did not, then I'll get in contact with Kara and get that sent out to you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chase. All right, I'm going to stop recording.